Billions to Trillions to Action, Mobilizing Finance for Development 2016 to 2030. Innovative Financing and Financial Solutions with Susan McAdams.
One area of great interest to the MDBs is the nexus between the public sector and the private sector. We work with both. We have a lot of experience with both. And it's a place where a great deal of innovation can occur and can help with both development impact and making sure that financial solutions make a lot of sense. An area that we've been working in across the board, across the institution, is often referred to as innovative financing. Innovative is a funny word. It means new, but there aren't actually that many completely new ideas out there. If you talk to the Gates Foundation about what's innovative for them, they might say that doing loans would be innovative because their primary financing vehicle is grants. However, when you look at a specific development problem and you structure a financing solution to help with that particular problem and how to finance it, that is innovative financing. There are a couple of different categories of innovative financing. One is new money. You actually find a way not to grow money on trees, but to create something that really generates a new and additional flow of money. That's rare, but it's very significant when it works. Another one is the category of debt-based funding, like the bonds that we've already talked about, where you borrow money using the capital markets. A third one is risk management. There are a lot of risks around financial management. For example, if I'm a company and I earn in my market, in my local currency, but I have to pay my lender in dollars, I've got currency risk. And there are a lot of financial solutions to help me manage that. There are also some innovative approaches around the field of results-based financing. Sometimes these are called pull mechanisms. Basically, you ask the private sector to do something and you promise to pay them if they do it the way you want them to. This can be very helpful where there's a market that isn't working right but has potential. And it can be very helpful where the private sector is interested but doesn't have assurance that it will get paid if it succeeds. When you talk about new money, the traditional area for that actually is the simple one of designing ways to have your tax administration structure work better. And we're doing things like building diagnostics for countries on their tax systems, both to improve the amounts they can take in and to improve the fairness of tax revenues. People don't like to pay taxes when they feel like the tax system isn't fair. And if you set up a tax system that's sensible, the taxes start being paid. Another clever funding mechanism is one that's used by the Adaptation Fund, set up under the Kyoto Protocol. In this case, they set aside a percentage of certified emissions reductions, basically a measure of less carbon generated. And they put those CERs into the Clean Development Mechanism under the Kyoto Protocol. Talk about an intangible asset. This is something that was invented basically in an agreement among negotiators. But we managed to find ways to sell these certified emission reductions and get money for the Adaptation Fund to do climate projects. It's kind of like using a financial mechanism to replicate an international tax. There have been a lot of creative ways that the MDBs and other issuers have used bonds. A bond is a simple instrument. It basically says, market, you can trust me, could you please lend me some money and I'll pay you back with interest. For example, on behalf of the International Finance Facility for Immunization, we issue vaccine bonds, which the market is pretty interested in. It's a very nice thing to have a bond that actually helps immunize children in poor countries. We also have a more complex structure of bonds that are used to put a floor price on carbon in the methane market, which doesn't exist yet. We're trying to establish a market to price methane, which is a carbon pollutant. There are catastrophe bonds. They provide funding when it is most needed after a hurricane or an earthquake. It's almost an insurance bond. It's a very interesting category. And then the pull mechanisms, the results-based mechanisms that pay for development results after they are achieved. One great example of a pull mechanism was the advanced market commitment that we established, not the World Bank Group, but a broad group of institutions, donors, and the Gavi Alliance. What we did was we used a subsidy to spur the development and manufacturing capacity of pneumococcal vaccines. Pneumococcal is hard to spell and pronounce, so people don't know how much damage it's done in poor countries. In the rich countries, when children get pneumococcal diseases, they get sick. In poor countries, they die, and this was a terrible killer for a long time. But we weren't developing vaccines that were designed to be used in the poorest countries. We were developing vaccines designed to be used in the US and in Europe. So this financial mechanism encouraged private companies to build vaccines that were tailored to the specific needs of children in the poorest countries. It dramatically cut the price in those countries by more than 95%. And it meant that the new vaccines went right away where they were needed most, as opposed to what they had traditionally done, which is when you have a new blockbuster vaccine, it comes to the rich countries, and then 10, 15, 20 years later, it would go to the poor countries. All of this was done by a pull mechanism promising payment once the vaccine had been developed, once the companies had countries interested in buying it. So it was payment after the fact for a very important development achievement. It's also been used to pay for education results in a number of different ways after they occur. Not just the girl is going to school, but the girl is actually learning and passing the math tests. Innovative financing often focuses on pulling in the private sector and joining it to public sector efforts. For example, we are looking to establish a pandemic emergency response facility. This would be a platform to support essentially an insurance mechanism. It will channel funds swiftly and where they are required to governments, to multilateral agencies, to NGOs and others. And it would finance a quick response to dangerous epidemic outbreaks before they become pandemics. With the ways that we leverage and mobilize and finance and do innovative financing and work with both the public and private sector in different ways across all our different institutions. During the 15-year effort to reach the MDGs, multilateral development bank financing to our clients has grown from $50 billion to $127 billion annually in grants, concessional and non-concessional loans, risk-sharing instruments, guarantees, equity investment, and innovative financing. That's financing for development.